Hello and welcome once again to a surprise Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
I got a diet tip. If your pants won't get too tight, if you don't wear any.
Well, there is that.
I'm doing this podcast pantless.
You're wearing shorts at least, right?
You'll never know.
Thank goodness. No, this is a surprise because last Monday, we had the Joe's sketchbook.
Yeah.
Because I was all ready for Joe to be gone for 2 weeks, but no, you are packed, stacked, and jacked.
Yeah, well, you'd like to think
time to talk.
I do. Basically, we got my daughter loaded. We got the rental truck about 8 a.m.
Got her loaded. Joe, don't get her drunk before she's got to drive to Reno.
You kidding? She's going to be in a car with a boyfriend who doesn't drive and 2 cats who are drugged up. You might as well be all together. My wife and I, we're going to follow at our own leisure. Our first stop, like I said, Rapid City, then Salt Lake City, then Reno City. We're not quite sure what we're going to do when we get there other than help Dana unpack. I have been promised I get to visit the 3 comic shops, so I may have a report on that. But yeah, we got all sorts of weirdness going on because, like you said, we dropped the finale of the finale, I should say, of, well, it was the last time I did a sketchbook. So, and then, of course, as we're recording this, by the time you're listening to this, I believe I'll be back from Reno and we'll have been to Free Comic Book Day. So we got all sorts of promises to keep.
Oh no, we're putting this up. Let me get the spectrometer out. This will be on August 2nd.
All right. So I will still be in Reno actually finishing up the day, and then we'll be catching the flight sometime that day. It's a 2-stopper, so we'll be arriving like at 12:30 a.m. on the 3rd.
And guess what? By the time you get back to town, both my eyes will have been lasered, and I'll be able to read comics on paper again.
Well, cool. And so let's see, that'll be that.
You got actually pretty lucky today.
So you'll when you drop? Okay, that'll be the 2nd. So you have something for the 9th, or will that just be?
Well, we'll see, because I have listened to our surprise geeking we did, and while the conversations are fun, the sound is just terrible. My car is much louder than your truck.
I don't want you to complain about my truck anymore.
I don't complain about your truck. You're the one who complains about your truck.
Oh, yeah, that's because it's usually. But I will tell you, as we're getting ready to record this, we're heading up to Free Comic Book Day. I did get the day off work officially, so that's cool. And I'm looking forward to it. I guess our guest will be guest driver will be Lisa. I will be just a rider along. I'm a terrible passenger, but
Butch has called shotgun.
Yeah, what a wuss. He doesn't come on our show at all. And then with one time a year we see him shotgun.
And then Dan and his lovely bride Jules will be riding along too.
Ooh, maybe I get to sit next to her, or Dan. Or Wolfie, whoever. But I have it that I will have a special toy to bring home. So, Cory, you will have a toy to knock your bout in the head.
As I said a little earlier, and you completely ignored me, we're very lucky I am available, because my plan today, after I got off work at noon, was to drive out to Minnesota's largest candy store.
Oh.
I also have found, one of my friends let me know, that in the wild, he found Rat Bastard root beer at a Robbinsdale True Value store.
Oh, interesting. True Value.
Yeah, they had a little soda shop thing in there. And when we had a True Value here in Chaska, they had a small area where they had unique sodas. That's where I would go to buy my sarsaparilla. And now I have to buy my sarsaparilla out at Minnesota's largest candy store, which is one of the reasons I was going. But tomorrow I get the first of my eye laser things done so that I can see better. And as I was driving, it's like, even with glasses on, things are blurry. Why don't I just go home? I'm going to get stuff done tomorrow. maybe if I feel like it, I'll go out there. I would rather go when I can see things really well. I have new glasses and everything. So instead, I decided to come home and was watching. Let me get the name of it here because it's available on YouTube. It's free, everybody. It's free. And that is MLW, Major League Wrestling, Battle Riot 3. Kind of their restart in front of crowds, is free on YouTube. It was filmed at the ECW Arena. It is not available on pay-per-view. It will eventually be available on their regular TV show on Bein Sports and then on Vice TV. But right now, you can watch the whole thing for free on YouTube.
Cool.
And I was just settling down to watch that. But nope. Joe gave me a message, said that I am all packed up.
How to entice Cory. The thought of doing an extra podcast. Just, I can hear him slobbering on the microphone already. I need a Q-tip for my ear. But, as usual, even though I have nothing really to talk about.
Well, I thought we could talk about some news in comics.
Okay.
But also, I only pick up my mail 2 times a week because why bother?
Don't they deliver, or is it just?
No, we have a central mail box, all these mailboxes. So I have to actually drive by and pick up. And usually, it's, here's it, add bill. And I get all my bills online anyway. So, but I do get things that the post office does not drop at my doorstep.
Sort of like Skipper Alan Hale's Roman Orgy LP.
Yes, they were scared to deliver that.
Yeah.
But I have the new Gondwanaland Comics Guidebook. This is a monthly book that they put out, and if you followed my instruction, which I'll have later in the show, on how to get it, you could get it via email. But I like having it in print because what it is, they put it out once a month. These are the people who print those public domain books, and you could get them through Amazon, and they're building their website, so you can buy it through their website. They're also having a big sale where if you go to their Facebook page, they say the problem is Volume 1 sells really well. Volume 2, a little less. Volume 3 sells a little less. So they're having a sale through July and through August, but it started in July, where Volume 1 is 20% off. Volume 2, 25%. Volume 3, 30%. Volume 4, 35%. Volume 4 and up, 40% off. But once a month, they put out a guidebook, which is more than just here's what we have for sale. They also publish examples, and the examples in this month are comics from Planet Comics, which was a series put out by, Fiction House in the 40s. They have a bunch of stories of Gail Allen and her Girl Squadron. Then they have the entire issue of Planet Comics number 30. And this was back when comics were 52 pages. And what else do they have? I think it's those 2 features. Oh, they've got another issue of Planet Comics in here. Let me see what one it is. Flipping back through. There it is, Planet Comics number 1, which was actually published by Fox Features. It also has instructions on how to order things, prices of things, and what they call their zombie books, which were books they may have made when someone requested them, but they don't sell real well, so they are discounting them usually by 20 to 50%, as well as posters and mugs and everything. It's kind of their catalog. If you go on to the Amazon, it's usually just $4.99, and this is a nice, big, thick book. But I was going to settle down and look through that, but no, we're going to podcast.
Nope, I know, and here I thought you'd be happy just showing off your giant-sized man thing on Facebook, which you haven't for a while.
No, I wait till it pops up in memories. Joe, how can I get you to watch wrestling?
Me?
Yeah.
It's funny you said that because yesterday at work, was a particularly slow day, and I actually watched old style wrestling. I watched the Crusher and Mad Dog Vachon against the Road Warrior. It was not the Crusher. It was Baron von Raschke and the Crusher versus the Road Warriors. This is back when they were trying to make Road Warriors the heels, but us AWA guys, we just said, you know what, these Road Warriors are really, really cool. From there, I watched a Undertaker attack by the Authority, and then The Rock came in for the save. After that, I watched Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan, their battle at WrestleMania 6. And I just went, and then I watched Rock and Ronda Rousey go against the Authority. I watched all sorts of old school wrestling. But as
Do you
far
like
as
do you like the CM Punk?
I do.
Do you like the Daniel Bryan?
Yes, 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 yes.
What if I told you that there are rumors? And these aren't just rumors that, one guy who living in his basement puts up on the internet, but rumors that have permeated wrestling. That at the All In pay-per-view in Chicago, Illinois, AEW has signed CM Punk. They have not made it official yet, but I have read it on every website except the one that I go with, which is pwinsiderelite.com. I also do their AEW stuff. But what they have said is, we are hearing the rumors too. We have not been able to substantiate anything because nobody at AEW talks to reporters because they're too happy to be there. But people who know CM Punk and people who know the business say that CM Punk has signed to show up at that pay-per-view. And like about 3 weeks later, AEW is at the Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York City, where they could have up to 22,000 people, I believe. And there is a rumor that Daniel Bryan has been signed and will be showing up for that.
Cool.
So I wanted to ask you, as a lapsed viewer, one of the reasons they are doing this is to try to bring in the lapsed viewer. If you heard this, would you tune in?
It could work.
Now, ratings-wise, AEW gets anywhere between 800,000 and 1 million viewers every Wednesday. But demo-wise, they are nearly tied with WWE, as they go between a 0.4 and a 0.5, and WWE goes between a 0.45 and a 0.6. And demo is all that advertisers care about. Now, when I watch WWE, boy, I see a lot of cars for kids, which means, those are ads that are, okay, we couldn't sell an ad, so we dropped that in. When I watch AEW, I see a lot of fast food. I see cars, ads for cars. I see ads for car insurance, stuff like that, which means that it's like when I started watching football again, I noticed that everybody who watches football obviously needs a truck and insurance on their truck, because that's most of the ads. Beer, trucks, insurance on trucks. And I've done a little research, and it's car advertising. They want the young demo, and they are willing to spend money. So I think that's pretty interesting, especially since AEW also has run ads in the past for DC Comics hardcovers and trade paperbacks, with a thing at the end to find a local comic shop, call 1-800-COMIC-BOOK.
Very suspicious.
And the other thing that I'm hearing, you'll hear about it when you pick up the new previews, because it's going to be in the new previews. The new team on Spider-Man is doing a story where Peter Parker is unable to be Spider-Man, and Ben Reilly takes his place. And Joe has gone into stunned silence.
No, more like bored anticipation.
So I thought we could do a what if.
Oh.
So, Joe, one of the things that I do, and you say that you do it too, you kind of think through, what would I do if thus and such happened as I'm going to sleep. And one of the things I've done is, well, what if I was the editor-in-chief of Marvel at these different time periods? What would I have done? What would I have changed? How would I have done things? So, Joe, I'm going to force you to do it. It's 1993.
1993.
Instead of opening Hot Comics St. Paul, you've been hired by Marvel to edit the Spider-Man books.
Ooh.
And your team, Tom Lyle, J.M. DeMatteis, Tom DeFalco, and I forget who else was working on the books at the time, but those were the ones who came up with the idea. When they sit down, to do the planning for upcoming books, they say, we've got an idea. Now, we've all said we want to get rid of the Spider-Man marriage. Makes Spider-Man seem too old. It's limiting the story potential. We don't like it. We can't have Spider-Man get a divorce because then he'd seem even older. We don't want to kill Mary Jane because we did that with Gwen Stacy. We want to get rid of the marriage. So here's our plan. Remember that clone back in Spider-Man 149 and 150 that we all thought was dead?
All right.
He's not dead.
Why?
He's been wandering the country.
How did he survive?
Well, he was just knocked out, and Peter Parker was too shook by the whole thing to realize that he was still alive.
But he got tossed down a smoking smokestack.
Well, the factory was shut down.
Okay.
Now
Continue.
remember in Spider-Man 150, he'd got the results of whether he was a clone or not, and he didn't look at him. He threw them away because in the battle with the clone, he thought about Mary Jane instead of Gwen Stacy, and the clone would have thought of Gwen Stacy. So he knew he was the real Spider-Man.
Okay.
So the clone that has been wandering the country, we're going to find out he's the real Peter Parker. And the Peter Parker we've been following since Spider-Man 150 has been the clone.
Okay.
You, Joe, are the editor.
I'm the editor.
Here are the parameters I'm going to give you.
All right.
Number one, in our little head game thing, we're going to assume that you as the editor can overrule marketing because marketing are the people who caused the story to last for 2 years.
All right.
It's sold so well, we have to keep it going. So you're able to override marketing.
All right.
2, the creative team isn't going to change because the reason the creative team changed is because they got so tired of the story having to be drawn out and added to and drawn out and added to and drawn out and added to. So you've got these people who came up with the idea. You're the editor. You're going to mold this story into the future of Spider-Man. How do you do it?
You know what? I tell them it's a dumb idea. Let's start out with a black teenager and kill off Peter Parker. Oh, wait a minute. That will happen later. Okay, forget about it. I
don't think the world was ready for a black Spider-Man back in
a teenage
1993 because people still aren't ready for that sort of thing now.
Yeah. I could scream like Gene Wilder and Young Frankenstein. I think it could work. However, the question is, do you guys have a story arc in mind, or is this going to be it? Peter Parker's off stage. He is not coming back.
The plan was that Mary Jane would get pregnant. Peter Parker, remember Aunt May is dead at this time. Peter Parker sees this as a way to get back to, well, we're just going to call, for purposes of not being confusing, Peter Parker is the clone who didn't know he was a clone. Ben Reilly is the real Peter Parker. So their plan was Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Mary Jane's going to get pregnant. Parker and Peter were going to go off to Seattle, and he was going to work for a science company and not use his powers again. It is unclear. No one who worked on the book at the time can remember if they wanted to get rid of the Spider-Man powers or not for the clone Peter Parker.
All right. I personally, if they did it the way they got rid of Starman in James Robinson's Starman, took his son, disappeared, was never, ever heard from again, that would be great. So as far as I'm concerned, it's over with. I want them to write up, okay, how is Peter Parker, what memories does he have? I want to know what he's been doing. Has he been reading the paper? Does he know about, because the reason I say that, there was one brief exchange in the Spider-Man that happened before it went market crazy, when Ben realized just how effed up the deal was that Peter made with Venom. Could not believe that Peter would ever sanction any type of agreement with such a monster. And I think that was before they were trying to make Venom into an anti-hero. So I would basically sit down and say, okay, I need to know what Ben knows, what he doesn't know, and what interactions will he have with various heroes and villains that have happened with Peter Parker versus that have never happened with the clone. Obviously, the clone knows who Dr. Octopus is, but does he remember anything beyond that? Does he remember? Obviously, he doesn't. Harry breaking down as the Green Goblin. That has to be in place. I want the whole universe set. I want to know what Ben knows, and I want to know what his reaction will be as he runs into things. Who did he run into that he's run into for the first time that he's never run into, Ben has never run into, if that's making sense. I need to know where the demarcation line is, because to me, that was one of the best moments of the Clone Saga, when Ben dealt with Venom. And Venom, of course, was confused as hell because he's like, I thought we had an agreement here. What, if any, of the, how do you call it? The legacy people, Flash, Betty, whomever, are they going to know? So in their mind, will they know, hey, Peter Parker's gone? Obviously, they don't know who Spider-Man is, but when they see Ben, if they see Ben, is that going to be an interaction, or is Ben going to be operating somewhere totally different? I think they set up, that was the whole coffee clatch where he hung up.
He got a job at a coffee house, and
yeah,
they introduced a new supporting cast. Now, here's the thing. That was done after the original people had left. My big thing, okay, there are two things that jump out at me that would need to be fixed. Number one, Spider-Man has the best group of supporting characters in comics. Yes, Aunt May is dead, but you've got J. Jonah Jameson, Joe Robinson, Betty Brant, Glory Grant, all of the people who work at the Daily Bugle. At this point, Peter, I think, was completely pulled away from going to the university. He'd kind of given up on getting his doctorate, which was one of the things that Peter Parker was going to do. But Ben Reilly, how could you get Ben Reilly to know the people at the Daily Bugle? Because that's, you don't want to get rid of that great supporting cast. You've got to keep J. Jonah Jameson around.
I disagree with that, because I think at that time, the J. Jonah Jameson thing was boring. All he did was rant and rave about Spider-Man. It was more interesting when Jonah actually acted like a real reporter, a real publisher, instead of a psychotic guy who just wanted to rant about Spider-Man. So to me, having that disappear would be fine. The question would be, to bring them in, if you were gung-ho to do that, what would change in Spider-Man's behavior that would get the Daily Bugle to go, hey, wait a minute, something's not right here? My guess it would be Robbie would step in and say, something's not right. This is not the Spider-Man we know and love. This is almost shades of what happened when Dr. Octopus took over Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So if that was the case, I just don't want Ben in the Daily Bugle. Boring, seen it, done it, got a copy of the home edition, got X number of years since the beginning of time. I don't think Ben needs anything to do with the Daily Bugle. But
well, here's one thing I want to also point out with that. There was a long time fan rumor, and many of the creators, including Gary Conway, have said that they wrote it as if Robbie Robertson knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. He always wrote it that way.
That could be the hook. So if he knows, then it would be like, hey, wait a minute. Spider-Man's not acting like Spider-Man. What's going on? I need to talk to him.
He knows Peter Parker
is gone
to Seattle.
And there's still. So how is he going to bring that forward without tipping to J. Jonah Jameson or anybody? Hey, I know who Spider-Man is. This is not the real Spider-Man. Because obviously he's not going to say, well, I know this. So, yeah, that's a great hook. But I don't want Ben in. He has no reason to interact with anybody in the Daily Bugle unless they're coming after him. I mean, do they get Ben Urich? Does he confide to Ben Urich, hey, something's wrong? Ben go to Daredevil? Daredevil go figure out?
Well, Daredevil knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man. They established that back in the 80s.
Into and sees a clone, it's going to sense that this sounds like the same thing, unless you want to say, okay, clones have a abnormality that Daredevil, this isn't quite the heartbeat I remember, which I think is dumb. If he's going to be a clone.
Well, remember, Peter Parker's a clone, Ben Reilly's the real one.
Yeah, either way.
And then again, Daredevil would know, well, Peter Parker moved away.
Yeah. So again, that's the hook to get the subplots going. But like I said, there's no reason. What I'm fearing is it's going to be like, oh, well, you're Peter Parker. Come on back, take pictures for me. No, not happening. There's no reason why the clone should want to do that. Otherwise, you're just setting it up. Okay, he's stepping in. He's going to take over for Peter Parker. Boring.
And that would also get really confusing because, hey, what happened to your wife?
Yeah. So, and again, that's the other thing is he. I seem to recall Ben being blonde.
He dyed his hair once he started hanging out in New York.
Okay.
Because so again, he and Peter, they're clones. They look exactly the same. People would go, hey, it's Peter Parker. No, I'm not.
Yeah. So again, this has all got to be, if you're going to leave Ben in New York, this all has to be figured out before we get rolling. Otherwise, I would not greenlight the story.
Here's the second.
These are the type of thing. Here's the big thing. You and I remember when this came out because you and I talked, and I said this could be absolutely brilliant if handled right. But I don't want you to write as a writer. You are going to have to write that every single fanboy in existence is waiting to pick you apart because they're going to say, hey, wait a minute, Ben wouldn't know this because this happened here. Or Ben should know this because he would have read it in the paper because it was a new worldwide story. That's the type of minutia detail these writers better have in their hat. It's not stuff that necessarily is going to come out in the writing, but you better be ready for it. And if they're not ready for it, I'm not going to greenlight it. Because again, this could work, but you got to have your I's and T's double dotted and the Q's with a real hook, not just a little tiny J, upside down J.
Another reason they wanted to do this is they wanted Spider-Man to seem younger because a married guy seems older. I think a good way to do that would be Ben Reilly. Yeah, he had not graduated college when he took off. It was Peter Parker who graduated and then went to grad school. So you put Peter Parker in college and you put Ben Reilly in college, create a supporting cast around him. You could even use Dr. Kirk Connors because he's one of the professors at Empire State University. I don't know who else you could pull from the past, but it would be a good way to give him a new supporting cast that fits with he's younger. But you could also do the thing that I think once they got rid of this in Captain America was a big shame. You've got that fish out of water because he's been out wandering the country, having adventures that you could always do a mini series about. And now he's going back to college after those years of being out in the world. He also is going to know more than his professors because he's Spider-Man. And he's done all these things all around the world. So you've got that, I can't tell the professor he's wrong about this because I've created web fluid that blah, 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 blah. Here's another big stumbling block you have to figure out in my mind. At this point in 1993, there was already a Spider-Man cartoon. There was a Spider-Man cartoon in the 60s with Peter Parker. There were two Spider-Man cartoons in the late 70s with Peter Parker. There was a Spider-Man TV show with Peter Parker. There is a movie script that was written by James Cameron that never got produced, but was out there with Peter Parker. All your licensing, all your promotional stuff is Peter Parker. How do you fix that?
So the question is, though, is Ben going to take over as Peter Parker, or is he going to take over as Ben?
He would kind of have to be Ben because Peter Parker, we don't want to kill off Mary Jane. We don't want to divorce Mary Jane. We don't want to have to explain in story, hey, Mary Jane just took off with this other guy.
Well, what I'm saying is they could take off, because people take off in life all the time and just, they're gone. And again, this might be a cop-out, which you tell me what you think, because this could be one of those things. Okay, Peter, Ben, we're going to sit down. I got to tell you what's happened the last 4 years, because if say he's going to jump in as Peter Parker, but the real Peter Parker and Mary Jane, they're going to disappear, but no one's going to know it. But Ben, Peter, and Mary Jane.
Well, so Mary Jane has been a soap opera actress, and I love how they say she was a supermodel, but if you read the stories, no, she was doing lingerie catalogs that were kind of low.
It's not really relevant.
So she's kind of a
people can disappear
celebrity
anytime they want. Just look how many actresses using. Where's Heather Graham been these last couple of years? Why did they drop out of? I see this all the time on Facebook. Where has this actress gone? Gina Davis kind of became a nobody after her pirate movie. Again, it doesn't matter how well you're known. They could go live a secluded life somewhere. Again, it could be Peter sending patents to Ben to, here, you're going to get money for this one. Send me this. Can you give me money for this one? Whatever. So again, the mechanism could be there if you are gung-ho because of all the merchandising out there to keep Peter Parker as a viable comic character. Again, me personally, I'm like, I don't care. It's not my concern. Marketing, deal with it. I want to make it so Ben is, like you said, the fish out of water. But if you're insistent upon him being Peter, just so we don't confuse people, that would be the opt-out you'd have to go. There'd be gaps in the knowledge. I've always been curious because every time you have a superhero fighting an obscure villain or something, I remember you from, this obscure book from 80 years ago, and there's a little footnote on the bottom. When I barely remember people I worked with for 5 months in Barrow, Alaska, and they happen to run across me at the checkpoint. Like, I don't remember, but if you tell me. So
you're saying Peter Parker wouldn't remember just a guy named Joe?
Nope. Captain America would, just because they fought twice or once, at least once. So again, that's another thing you have to decide.
That'd be great if Ben didn't recognize the kangaroo, and then people write in, "Hey, he fought the kangaroo." Yeah, but come on, it's the kangaroo. Nobody remembers him.
You met him what? Don't worry about it. Yeah. I guess I don't like that idea better. I kind of like the one we talked about earlier. People are gonna know. Hey, wait a minute. Spider-Man's still around. Yeah, we know Peter Parker and Mary Jane took off. And then, of course, you can always have the conundrum where in the very beginning, before Ben decides to dye his hair or change his look or whatever, he's just wandering around and, hey, Peter, it's Flash Thompson. Just kind of mistaken run-ins. I mean, you're going to wear that out really fast, but to do it a couple times, that could lead to the thing where Ben has to decide, God, if I'm going to hang around here, I got to change how I look. Maybe I'm going to go bald for a while. I don't know. But again, would I recognize you, Cory, as a blonde?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, this is superhero world. Say what? That could be the joke. Well, what am I going to do, Peter? Well, wear some glasses. It worked for that guy in Metropolis. Whatever. Just throw away jokes. So that could be a way. And again, I didn't necessarily dislike the coffee house Klatch, but like you said, if you're going to keep the legacy characters in the background, this is things you're going to have to figure out before you start the story going. And then, of course, the question is, who's he going to fight? Who do you want the villains to be? Is he going to be just flying around New York City helping crime, which I always thought was ridiculous? Or is he going to be fighting people? Who would he fight that could have an advantage over him just because Ben doesn't know about the last time they fought together? And this is where I would need to sit down and read those books in between.
Yeah, you would use pretty much any villain created after 1976 would be new to him. And, of course, everybody would be waiting with bated breath for the Venom story.
Yeah. And, of course, was Harry dead then? I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay, so leave him out. Leave Norm out. Flash. Betty's at the Bugle, so we won't run into her. I don't know who other.
Norman Osborn was actually dead at the time.
Yeah, he's not alive. I wouldn't have approved that. It led to some good stories, but I wouldn't approve that. So who else of the legacy characters would be around that Peter could possibly run into?
Yeah, one thing you may want to think about, remember they undid Aunt May being dead.
At that point or later?
They did it after the Clone Saga.
Okay, see, I would leave her dead. So that's not an issue. That would be something for the next group to, if you're going to play in that sandbox, you can set it up for the next people down. But for me, gone is gone. It was a wonderful story. She left on a high note. I no plans to bring her back. No strange Mysterio actress clone of a lifetime, high evolutionary, wibbly wobbly, timely wimely.
That's the other thing in the Clone Saga. They actually brought back Gwen as an actual clone. Because remember, in the Evolutionary Saga, it's no, she wasn't a clone. We just genetically manipulated this woman to make her seem like Gwen Stacy. And then in the Clone Saga, it's no, it was Gwen Stacy, and everything the High Evolutionary said was a lie.
It was a lie. Yeah, and to me, why? If I can't see Ben going to the High Evolutionary and asking him, but if it ever came up, it'd be like, High Evolutionary's jealous. This idiot Jackal guy made the perfect clone. He's been fighting for years to do this. He's got godlike powers. He fought Galactus. and a mere mortal figured it out, I'm not
Would
letting that
you-
secret get out.
Would you bring back the Gwen clone since you're doing this Gwen story?
I always had a story for
this
the
clone
Gwen
story.
She was just wandering the street, deciding whether or not to go. Because she's in agony, knowing that Peter's out there, and she decides, you know what? I'm going to see him. I'm going back to him. Boom! A random terrorist act takes her out. That's how I would have gotten rid of the Clone Saga, the Clone Gwen.
So kind of like
said,
Defenders, where they build up the elf with a gun, and then he's finally made it to the Defenders headquarters, and he gets hit by a bus.
This would have been a four-page backup story that people would be like, oh yeah, she wants to. Boom, bye. Again, if the writers came up with a better scenario, I'm not the type of guy, if I was the editor, that I would poo-poo stories. What I'd really want is I definitely want a guy like Mark Avini here in my corner to say, dude, you really need to help me with continuity on this because we don't want to slip up and make it sound bad. Or give me 2,375 no prizes to mail out to people to describe to me why it's not a mistake. Maybe I'd do that, maybe I'll put that in the editor's note. I said, we're going down some enchanted territory. Here's the deal. If you think you found something that's a mistake, you know it's not. Explain to me why. And I got this stack of signed, I'll get Stan to sign them. He's still around. No prizes that we will send out to you.
Well, and the other good thing is on staff in 93, 94, you had Peter Sanderson, the guy who read every Marvel comic so he could write the official handbook, and Mark Grunwald, who was a living continuity encyclopedia.
Yes.
If I were the editor, I would have brought in Grunwald and said, all right, what are the holes in this?
Yeah.
Another thing for Spider-Man, the reason, Spider-Man has to have guilt. He became Spider-Man because with great powers, great responsibility. He had to go out and fight crime because when he didn't, Uncle Ben died. And then when that kind of faded off, they killed Gwen. Well, Aunt May is gone now.
He could feel bad because he never got to say goodbye.
What would be the reason for him to worry about his secret identity being revealed? Because it used to be, if Aunt May finds out, she'll have a heart attack and die.
Something bad could happen to Peter and Mary Jane and the newborn.
There you go. I like that. That's a good. That would be a good twist. And then if it goes over well enough, you could have your Scarlet Spider stories out in Seattle.
I hadn't even thought of Scarlet Spider.
Well, because you got Spider-Man in New York, something causes Peter Parker to have to take up the webs again, but he can't be Spider-Man because blah, 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 blah. So he becomes the Scarlet Spider, and you give that a run.
Sure.
And it's an area that in the 90s was considered super cool, but Marvel didn't have any superheroes there. So you could also create new characters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I also think it opens up a whole big bunch of stories in that you've got all these heroes that Peter Parker met, but Ben Reilly didn't, because, in 74, 75, Marvel Team Up had only been going for 30 issues, and Spider-Man didn't play well with others.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why Stan never put him in any of the other teams, because he had no problem throwing everybody else into a team. But Spider-Man, he tended to keep off in a corner by himself and have people kind of drop into the book. But you've got Ben Reilly never met the X-Men. Ben Reilly never met the Defenders or this or that or the other. Didn't have the big fight with Juggernaut. No idea who Hobgoblin is.
Maybe Ben would
stuff.
Maybe Ben go into storage and take out the mini bike that Peter kind of gave up.
Well, I would say the Spider-Mobile, but no, the Spider-Mobile got destroyed.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
That would be a good one. Peter, what happened to our Spider-Mobile? When Evil tried to kill me, and I gave it back to the people who made it.
That could actually be kind of
it went evil. and try to
like
kill me.
that could
And
be kind
yes,
of
that actually happened.
a funny miniseries where, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about things. And then, okay, write me a 4-issue miniseries where these two talk about all the things that happen. Now, let's go back to what you talked about. Ben basically had, how many years are we going to say happened between Smokestack and Clone Saga?
They settled on 5.
Okay. Let's hear about Ben's adventures for 5 years. What could he have done? And this might be a Mark call. Find me some things where a mysterious stranger got involved but was never explained anywhere. That was Ben. Or make out, was he involved with something major, but nobody knew it because, he did it and he disappeared. And again, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but say like Hulk attacked a village in Hulk 317, and Ben was there and saved people and then continued on. So he lived a nomad, wandering Ronin type life. Actually, the question was, what got him to decide, hey, I need to go to New York to talk to Peter? I don't even remember that. What was the catalyst that actually got him there?
I think he started showing up after the fake parent story.
Oh.
And he was there when Aunt May died. So I think they kind of did it where he had heard that Peter Parker's parents had come back. And even if that wasn't why he came back, that's the story I would tie it in with, because it is very much wait a minute, my parents are back? And of course, we found out that they were fake and et cetera, et cetera. And then 12 issues later, Aunt May dies. But I think that would be the good catalyst for him to have come back.
Okay.
And there's so many bits and pieces where, looking back on it now, I honestly don't think it would have lasted. Even if they did everything that we've put in place, eventually when the first movie came out, it would be, well, we got to get Peter Parker back in the costume. But I do think it's fun to play around with this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when in comics at the time, everybody was looking for the next big story. You had the death of Superman. Oh my gosh, that's huge. You had Batman gets his back broken. You had Green Lantern go crazy and kill people. Over at Marvel, the X-Men were having a huge crossover every summer. And one of the reasons behind this was they went to the Spider-Man creative team and said, we need something big. Now, do you think this would have been something the fans would have accepted? You were there when the Clone Saga was going on. What was your take on what people thought about it?
I mean, it sold pretty well. I think as it went on, people stopped caring. I wish I had my sales figures of that.
That was also, it took place over the time when the sales collapsed. So at the beginning, it's selling 750,000 copies. And then by the end, it's selling 100,000. But I don't think you can blame that on the story, because the X-Men was selling, 750,000 copies. And by 1996, they were selling maybe 120,000.
Yeah.
Everything collapsed.
On the outside, that could be, oh my God, Pets, sales are dropping. We have to bring Peter Parker back. But again, I'm going off the idea that I'm immune to marketing. So screw you, marketing. We're going where we're going. And again, it's all a matter of, do you have a story arc? Do you have an end? I would ask the guys to have an exit. Okay, say we do this, have an exit for like a year. So if it totally flops, I want you to have a viable way to bring them back. I want you to have it just ready. So if, say, 2, 3, 4, 7 years down the road, I don't know, how long did creative teams last back in the 90s?
It depended. A lot of the people on Spider-Man quit because they were tired of this, but Tom DeFalco had been working on Spider-Man pretty much either as the editor or writer since like 1982.
Okay, so we could go off. Let's go off the idea, guys. I want you. If say you decide to leave, I need you to figure out a way to wrap it up again. Put all the toys back in the sandbox. If you want to make it a dramatic fight that kills off Ben, I kind of like I've always liked the idea of like he's overwhelming odds, and he loses. He loses heroically. But could you imagine just like, and again, they didn't really do that back then, but this is like a worldwide crossover event. He's the only one left because all the Avengers and Fantastic Four, everybody else is fighting the world. He's left to defend Manhattan. And while he does it, he dies doing it. And that would be a Death of Spider-Man sale that could be worthy of it. And that would be the catalyst to bring possibly Peter back. Meanwhile, Mary Jane's holed up. I'd also like to figure an idea how to make, and this would make it Tom happy because he's probably in the background somewhere. Tom, figure me out a story that gets Baby May from Peter and goes to the future and becomes Spider-Girl. Because I've always toyed with that idea too, especially when they canceled the Spider-Girl book. She comes back in time because she has to do something to ensure she survives to grow up to be Spider-Girl. In other words, what do they call it? It's a predestination loop. She has to do it or she dies. So again, that could be tie that as I have to take myself, whatever. Yeah, I don't care. I'm not the writer. I'm just guiding the story, but that would be something that I always thought would be a good time, especially once the M2 line started to collapse. I was like, you know what? Let's keep Spider-Girl alive, Tom. Write me this story. I want to weep at this. I don't want it to be like, oh, well, we have this guy named Cable, and he went to the future and came back, and later was and rockets, lots of rockets, and his clone too, and Jean and who was a clone. Wait, was that a clone or was that a real Jean? I get so confused. But I just want it to make sense. You know what I'm saying? Not just have it all these things in place. So if you need to go there, you can. If you don't, no worries. But yeah, I think that would be something I'd say, okay, creative team, this is a great idea. I want all these prerequisites going. Run it with Mark. Run it with Peter was the other guy. And have an end game ready in case this doesn't work. Because I just want it to just flow. We put all the toys back in the sandbox and give it to whoever they're going to replace us with. Or wait, Peter could be a mutant. No.
Wait, what?
I know. See what happened? You got to listen in here. This happens each year after full retirement, folks. I'm telling you.
I thought that was fun. See, in my mind, I went other places with it. Okay. Basically, kind of, we've got to figure out how to get Peter Parker and Mary Jane off the stage. We have to figure out how to move Ben Reilly into Peter Parker's life. And kind of going at it from that angle is what I did, because I thought, we could tell marketing to screw you, but eventually they're going to come back to us and say, you see all these toys and all these cartoons and all this and all that. And that's why I always said this isn't going to work at the time. You might even remember me saying it, because eventually Peter Parker has to be Spider-Man, because there's Peter Parker on the Spider-Man cartoon. If you ask little kids at the time, who is Spider-Man? They'd go, Peter Parker. He takes pictures of himself for the newspaper.
What a pervert.
And I think that was way too intertwined at the time for it to have worked. Now, Peter Parker, what is Peter Parker's job? We don't know.
No.
He owned a business, it went under, and then he just kind of, I don't know, he has money from something. We own it. But I think getting Peter Parker back into college would probably have been a good way to do things. We've learned that the marriage was much more popular than everybody at Marvel thought. there were a lot of people at Marvel who really thought that the marriage was unpopular. But the
Yeah.
other thing was they didn't undo it for 20 years.
And then it took the devil to do it.
But
And now
think
he's
about that.
being called into question.
There were 2 whole generations that had read Spider-Man's married to Mary Jane. 2 generations of readers had read that. And when you change something that far back, I think there's a blowback. Because once you make a change, first off, people in comics, they say they want change, but they really don't. But when you actually do a big change and you leave it in place for a long time, when you undo it, you get blowback. And I'm going to point to the Flash. First off, the one thing I want to point out, you were talking about having a back door. Marv Wolfman said he had a back door for Barry Allen to come back as Flash right there in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And if you've read the Crisis on Infinite Earth novel, he really points a red arrow at it, which is Barry Allen, as he's running around the Anti-Monitors thing, he travels back through time and then forward in time and all through time. And he said, you bring Barry Allen back, he's got a whole new thing where he knows he's not going to be around for long. So he has to do the most he can in the time he has left. And that was kind of the backdoor he had. But you had Wally West as the Flash from 1987 to 2010, 2012, whenever they brought back Barry Allen. So again, you had 2 generations of people who, Wally West is our Flash. And I really don't think bringing back Barry Allen has worked because they keep trying to fix it over and over and over and over because people grew up with Wally West as their Flash. First was Jay Garrick, then was Barry Allen, and now it's Wally West. And then it's okay, we're going to get him off stage by having his kids get really old. And Bart Allen, Impulse is going to take over. And the sales on that were so bad, they're like, nope. Okay, we'll bring back Barry Allen. And people still, when's Wally coming back? Where's Wally? What happened to Wally? Why isn't Wally around? And I think that's one of the problems you have when you do these things where we want to get rid of the marriage. Well, they got rid of the marriage, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, almost 15 years ago, I think. And fans still, well, I grew up, Peter Parker was married, and we want Mary Jane back as his wife. And here's the thing, eventually somebody's going to do it because that's what happens. It's like eventually Barry Allen came back because somebody grew up with Barry Allen, was like, I want Barry Allen back. And he was able to get it through editorial after 20 years of editorial saying, no, Barry Allen is dead and he will remain dead forever. Same for Supergirl. Supergirl's dead. Well, we're going to create this new one who's really complicated and doesn't make any sense at all if you sit and think about it for more than 30 seconds, no matter what Peter David wrote, until eventually somebody who'd grown up with Kara Zor-El as Supergirl was in power and got the pitch and said, sure, okay, bring her back. And that's, in a lot of ways, I think that's what happens. Eventually somebody in power who grew up with that, they get a pitch and they go, okay, yeah. So this was a fun little experiment, though. And if Joe, if you or any of the listeners have any other events that happened in Marvel or DC or somewhere else that you would like us to play with in the same way, just let us know. And you can let us know by right here where I talk about all these other podcasts I do. And you know who isn't going to undo things, Joe?
I'm not sure.
Our sponsor, you're not going to have to undo anything because they protect you on the internet, and that's Nordvpn. Our newest sponsor is Nordvpn. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. Nordvpn gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files. It backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And now we get to Joe's favorite part of the show.
Ooh, I finally get to take a shower after 90-degree heat and moving my daughter's stuff into a 100-degree heat rental van.
No, not going out to Izzy's for ice cream, which you should do. No, it's Joe. What's going on the eBays with you being gone?
Yeah. No, I actually, I don't know when this is going to drop, but if you go to the eBays, I will probably leave everything up for sale, but I always put that, hey, I will be back by Wednesday the 4th. And then I'll get everything up and running, because you never know. As long as people see that they're more than willing to wait, because I've sold some really cool stuff lately. I did sell a copy of Batman 497. This was the beginning of Nightfall, where Bane broke Batman's back. This one was
we
my
talked
second
about just
copy.
a little bit ago.
Yeah, because this was the second copy I had that was autographed by Doug Menk. So I don't have any more. Sorry, you had your chance. Let's see what other goodies I sold. I sold a copy of Glory Evangeline #1. And this was the, Cory, if you remember back, this was the foil cover, wrap around enhanced cover with girlies with small waists, big hips, and big boobies. Gloria Evangeline. Basically, it's a one-shot. It was a sequel called Evangeline Glory, and basically had Glory, who was a Amazonian goddess, and Evangeline, who was I'm not sure what her deal was, but Rob Liefeld built the story. And, not terribly expensive comic, but it was shiny. Good. I did sell a copy of Star Wars Errant Knight #1 variant cover, which is, even though it's from Dark Horse, is still pretty expensive. Not the regular copies, but people are, because a lot of the stuff's out of print. I don't know if it's considered canon, but basically this series took place 1,000 years before Luke Skywalker. A dark age grips the galaxy as an ineffectual republic abandons entire systems to Sith control. However, a newly knighted Jedi on her first mission, 18-year-old Kira Holt, has joined a band of Jedi volunteers to travel deep behind enemy lines with no support from the Republic and little chance of survival. She thinks she is prepared for anything. Well, she was wrong. And there were a couple of miniseries that came out of Dark Horse and graphic novels as well. Let's see. I sold a copy of Three Stooges #40 from 1968. It was a very good photo cover. Three Stooges was from Gold Key, and Dell started in '61 with issue 6. Previous issues appeared as part of the Dell 4-color stuff, and it went up to 55, which was in 1972. And by then, all of them had photo covers, so they were kind of fun. Finding these bad boys in mint shape is hard. Like I said, mine was only very good, sold for a scant $10. But if you could find it in near mint, you're over $100, $200. Piranha Press, 1990. Cory, did you ever read Invaders from Home?
Yes, I read all of the Piranha Press books.
Yeah. This one was a 6-issue miniseries. It's a whirlwind comedic tour through the mind of a man who is learning to cope with middle age. Bobby Boomer. not so subtle play on the term, baby boomer, is an average man with an average house, average wife, average child. That's the way it is, and this is the way he likes it. However, his life is turned upside down when his niece comes to live with him. She's a teenager, which is, in practical terms, mean that she might be as well an invader from another planet. Bobby doesn't know how to relate to her, doesn't like the way she dresses, talks, especially doesn't like her choice of boyfriends. So this is almost real life type humor, and not a tremendously expensive miniseries to find. 6 issues out of Piranha Press. Dig through your quarter boxes and you or dollar bins now, and you should be able to find it. Definitely worth picking up. Created by John Blair Moore under the DC's Piranha imprint. I sold a book. Sometimes I look up a book. I have no idea where it came from. I have no idea where it's going. I can't find any sales record of it. And I bet I underpriced it. I thought it was near mint, even though the guy who got it said, hey, there were issue rub marks, you know, them goofy little water spots that appear on the covers in the 90s comics. More of a printer defect than anything. But he was happy with the comic nonetheless. Bought it for $20 hours after I put it up. It makes me wonder if it was in nicer shape, maybe it would be worth a little bit more. But, you know, I was pricing this one on commission for someone, and they were happy with the $30. So there you go. A couple copies of Toy Fair went, number 26. Toy Fair was the toy magazine companion of Wizard back in the 90s. Really fun because it had the Twisted Toy Fair Theater, lots of not for all ages jokes throughout the book. I wasn't big on toy collecting. I was obviously big on selling them. But, it was always fun to read Toy Fair. And even now, if I have an open issue, I will read it. If I have a sealed issue, I sell it on eBay.
And
Speaking
most of the people who worked on the Twisted Toy Fair Theater got a job in animation, creating a show you may have heard of.
I'm kind of a chicken on that one. I'm going to robot out of it. What was the name of that?
Robot Chicken.
Wow. Hit me with a copy of Before Watchmen Omnibus. The only other one I sold was a copy of, speaking of Del 4 color, number 612, Little Beaver from 1954. A Western. Little Beaver, of course, is an Indian. Neither of those are complimentary, politically correct 21st century terms, but what the hell, it was 1954. So you can go back, get yourself a nice copy of Little Beaver. All these Del 4 colors, if you can find them in mint shape, you got something special going. Very good. Sold mine for about $10. But like I said, there's still more going. Go to my eBay page, Crazy, Krayz. All I can say is, well, I can tell you this. There were a few people that were smart enough to actually contact me and say, hey, would you be interested in dealing? That's why I sold my copy of Marvel Collectible Classics. It was a reprint. This was actually Marvel Collectible Classics X-Men 3, which reprinted X-Men 137. Cory, tell them what was big about X-Men 137.
That was the death of Phoenix.
Yep. This was, when these came out, they didn't sell worth butkus. It was Marvel Collectible Classics. They were $20 for a foil cover reprint. I remember buying onesie twosies, putting them up on the shelf. I think the only person who bought it was my then ex-partner, Pat. And now they are wildly expensive. And the one I had was signed by inker Terry Austin and came with a certificate of authenticity. A gentleman sent me word, would you be willing to deal? And, you know, I've been sitting on this book a while, and I'm always tempted to hang on to it, but you know me, I sell stuff. So that's what you can do. If you see something you're interested in, send me a quick note and tell me you're with the show, and I'd love to give you either a bonus deal or maybe you say you want it for 50, I'll insist on 40. I did that with the Star Wars one. So anyways, you know what to do. Crazy, Krayz, come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show.
Whee!
Yes, I'm going to go into a long dissertation on the history of Paste Pot Pete.
Oh, man, that could be... Oh, yeah, hang on for that one.
No, it's freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Oh, people, what the fuck is wrong with you? I've heard more negative Nelly, whiny-ish, Karen-ish, bitchy people complaining about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. What a bunch of piss ants. Oh, it's not the one I remember. Yeah, the one you remember was childish and boring. Good
And
grief.
the animation was shit because it was Filmation.
And it sucked because it had today's lesson, we learned that you shouldn't go sticking your fingers in Skeletor's eye holes. Just terrible. It was just to sell toys. And again, maybe these guys, you can't pander to nostalgia necessarily, because all I know is people who have never seen this before enjoy it.
People who weren't in love with the original show.
Yeah.
I'm not someone, it came on when I was in junior college. And I remember watching a couple episodes and going, this is for 7-year-olds. And because I had friends who were like, come on, man, it's sword and sorcery. And I'd watch it and I'd go, this is made for 7-year-olds. This is stupid. And as I read about the new one, it sounds like, this kind of sounds a little interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, people who worked on the original He-Man like it.
Well, good. And I'm looking forward to see it. I just got other things to do. For example, drive cross country to
Reno.
Thank you.
Can I give a little sidebar to this?
Sure.
There are a couple people who I am Facebook friends with, I will not mention their names, who ever since the Star Trek Discovery has come out, everything that's being done with Star Trek is terrible. They've ruined Starfleet. They've ruined all this. It's worthless. They're spitting on the previous Star Trek. Then today, I can't believe people are all complaining about how this Masters of the Universe show ruined their childhood. Grow up. They didn't ruin your childhood, blah, 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 blah. And one of them actually, not 20 minutes later, somebody posted something about the Star Trek Picard series. Oh, Star Trek Picard ruined all of the Next Generation. And he does not get the irony of that. Just the irony just passes him right by. Anything else you're freaking on, Joe?
When did Bill Tushy become the devil incarnate?
He is with a group of people who hate the trend in comics that characters are being replaced by other characters. I'm not going to mention the name of that group, but you probably know what one I'm talking about.
I got hit over the head with it because I've supported the Kickstarter for the She Omnibus Volume 1 because I have the black and white edition, but I always wanted this in color. I wasn't aware Bill Tushy was a douchey, but boy, did the social justice warriors come out, because I posted it on one of the Facebook Omnibus pages, and everybody's like, why are we posting this here? This guy's a piece of shit, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, this is one of those things. Do you separate the art from the person?
Yeah.
I have great memories of She, but apparently it's not okay to mention Tushy. So, whatever, people. You don't like it? Back off, move away. I supported the omnibus. Probably won't support anything else he does, but whatever. It was just one of those things I wasn't aware of, and boy, did people get butthurt. People liked it, people didn't. It's largely irrelevant because the thing was paid for in 2 hours. He's busted over $100,000, and I'm pretty damn sure most of those people aren't, the CG people that are just, we got to report Bill. No, I think people genuinely remember the series with fondness. At least I do. If you're interested, you got 16 days to go. So, whatever. That's all I'm freaking on. Cory, what you freaking on?
I'm really not freaking on a lot. The weather is terrible because it's super hot, but I have air conditioning.
It's the humidity dropped, which was nice because we had one last night of beautiful air. We had the house wide open. It went down in the 70s, 50-degree dew point. But like Cory said, it's 90 degrees, 40% dew point. It was 70-degree dew point yesterday. That's tropical. That's like walking in soup. And the lower the dew point, the worse the fire danger. Minnesota's in a drought. Where we're going, there were two places I wanted to visit. I wasn't, I guess I'm mini geeking still. Lake Tahoe. Well, there's a big ass fire out of control south of Lake Tahoe. Then they have this Lawson Volcanic National Park. Big ass fire south of the park. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just stick with visiting the 3 comic shops in Reno.
That's something I was going to point out. A lot of people are posting these pictures. Oh, look at this beautiful sunset. Oh, look at the sun, red in the sky. You know why that is? Because even here in Minnesota, the wildfires out west and up north are putting so much crap in the air. I'm somebody with asthma, and I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday. I am hitting my inhaler, which normally I don't do during the summer, but there's so much crap in the air. And think about that. Think about how far away we are from those fires, and it's making the sun red because there's so much smoke in the sky. It's diffusing the sunlight. This would turn very political very fast, so I'm not going to. I'm really not geeking about it. I'm sorry, I'm not freaking about anything comic-wise, because right now, comics are doing okay. I'm getting stuff I like. The new previews is coming out. It's probably out by the time this drops, and there's some really cool stuff coming this fall. So let's get to geeking. Joe, what you geeking on?
Well, I got in the mail, speaking of Kickstarters, the Dreadstar Returns, which is significant because this is the first time Jim Starlin's picked up the pen in a long time. I immediately dropped it. So the hardcover, my hardcover, has a ding on the corner.
Oh,
I'm just not allowed to have nice things. I also picked up the sketchbook omnibus thingy that came with it, that like Who's Who. I haven't looked at it, but I will probably bring this with me and read it while we're sit up in the hotel and just enjoy it. Speaking of graphic novels, I do have the great graphic novel Sort and Purge finished. I got 9 short boxes of books that I am going to keep. Not counting the ones that are on the shelves, including series that I will reread, my beloved omnibuses, the one-shots or two-shots that I deemed worthy. So I got them all back inside. I still have every single book I own outside. That's a different project, because some of these I got to go through, because what I want to do is decide, am I going to keep them or am I going to donate them to the charity booth, which, if you'll excuse me while I whip this out, they have dropped that FallCon XL. You do the Roman numerals. Will be Saturday, 25th. Okay, let's do it the way we do it. Saturday, September 25th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Minnesota Fairgrounds Grandstand. So it's $12 to get in. There will be a pre-sale probably going now. Head over to the website, MinnesotaComicFans.com, and they'll probably have all that information going. As this, I don't know, when this drops, will the One Crazy Summer Con be over?
Yes.
Right. I will try to get a hold of Kelly and get a update on that, because I won't have seen it. I will be sitting in Reno. If worse comes to worse, I'll be by the pool with a margarita. So looking for that. By the way, if you've got anything you would like to donate, get a hold of me. It's been a year and a half. I have almost nothing to donate. And, if you need a good tax write-off, you want to get, people are always getting rid of stuff. If you want to take pennies from various places that sell stuff at half price, way more than you, do so, or take a full tax write-off. It's all what you feel like doing. So I'm looking for that. Other fun things I got. There was a free record store day. Well, I guess they don't call it that. They just call it Record Store Day at independent record shops. And although I didn't get to go, I picked up via the eBays a copy of Weird Al Yankovic's Beat on the Brat, and has him on the cover as a Garbage Pail Kid. Now, the weird thing about this is a 3-inch LP. Cory, have you heard about these things?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're big hit over in Japan. There's literally no player in the United States that can play this thing, because it's like those old Fisher Price albums, you used to put in, and it would bing the bells on records. So if you have a 3-inch player, you can play the 1 or 2 songs on the one side. There's virtually nothing on the other side. I just picked this up because it's a pretty cool Weird Al promo type giveaway. I paid a little bit more for it than had I been able to find it at a comic shop. It's kind of funny, or a record store. Kind of funny because one of my buddies at work found one, and he said the one place he went to had like 15 of them, which was interesting because they only had 1,500 of these things made. Other places never even ordered it, and I'm like, I have seen this short-sightedness before. A couple of years ago, one of the free comic book day things, record shop day, it's not free, was a exclusive WrestleMania, or it was a WWE album, Land of 1,001 Dances, and then Pile Driver. Nobody thought to buy them, and then all day long they're taking sales for them. I tell you, as out of touch as comic shop guys may be, these record store guys, in my opinion, are really, really out of touch. I mean, I had to go to eBay to get, I think last year's offering was Ted Cassidy as Lurch singing The Lurch. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just because I naturally want to go for the weird stuff. I just realized, yeah, that's going to be the one no one's going to order. Let's see what other goodies we got going. Oh, what have I read lately? I actually read some stuff. I picked up a copy I mentioned before of Marvel Voices, Pride #1. I enjoyed this. I thought it was really good. I suppose if you're a social justice warrior, you're going to hate this book with all passion. So I advise you to buy a copy and burn it, mainly because the point is you had to buy it. But it was fun. It was quirky. There was little tiny bits. Some of the character I weren't aware they were gay or lesbian or trans, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was just I'm not naive in this because as a passenger support specialist for TSA, I have to be trained in order to help people that ask for it through the checkpoint. But I helped a comic shop, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Some of the other things I read and enjoyed, Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries up to issue 3 with Bat Hound. Strange Academy is knocking it out of the ballpark. I'm just loving it. Enjoying Justice League that Bendis is doing. Let's see. I did enjoy Alien, but I'm probably going to tap out and either pick it up as graphic novel or wait for the big old omnibus. I reread Marvel and DC Presents Uncanny X-Men, The New Teen Titans.
I love that book so much.
I've got mine in a beat-up gold copy that they did as a special crossover collector's edition, and it still reads really good. It's to me, almost, except for JLA Avengers, almost one of the perfect crossovers because the two teams get together, there's a threat, they meet, there's inevitable fights. They realize they're going up against Darkseid, the cosmic villain, and Phoenix. We got to get a hold of Justice League and the Avengers somehow. Just little throwaway lines like that I love. They're acting as if they were operating in the actual Marvel DC universe instead of, well, we don't know what world they're on where they exist anyway. So if you can find a copy of this one way and you've never read it, you owe it to yourself to check this one out. It was a blast. Let's see. Oh, other things I got. Where'd it go? Cory, you remember Jax the Rabbit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jaxon.
Well, he came back.
Jaxon, Jax off.
Yep. He's in Star Wars Adventures, and I picked up a copy of, or I should say the action figure that was available through Hasbro Plus only. Ordered it a while back and I got it. So I got myself a 6-foot-tall, green furry leopard smuggler and captain of the Rabbit's Foot. He's known for his wisecracks, high kicks. He's helped Han Solo and Chewbacca on more than one occasion. The only character to be outright banned by Lucas as soon as he saw it from the comic book. Well, guess what? Disney is not that myopic. They actually made a figure of him. I also found from at Target the latest Mego action figure, Igor from Young Frankenstein. And yeah, it's pretty silly. 8-inch action figure, 14 points of articulation. Looks a lot like Marty Feldman. I just can't have his eyes looking at me. I'm going to have to put that one away. What other fun things did I do? Oh, I watched a show on Nova. You know, I've got all these Novas built up, and this one was called hang on a second. Hindenburg.
one.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the new evidence, and it's on PBS. You can go to pbs.org under their Nova series, and I think you can watch it or you can do it. But what was interesting is they actually had found some film that this person's father had shot, and he was at a different angle from the Hindenburg. Most of the stuff we recall was from the news area as the Hindenburg was coming in, and they always bemoaned the fact that the fire and explosion happened and they didn't have any picture of it. This was a chilling as hell shot of the Hindenburg from the side. He had a perfect side view, was not running the film when the explosion happened, but he did catch it, and you can just get a chilling portrayal of how that thing went down from the side. And it's if you can find and watch this, it was really interesting. And they do come up with what they believe is the reason why the Hindenburg went down. I'm not going to go into it now, but that's why I save all these Novas and I'll watch them eventually, because it was absolutely brilliant. Let's see, stuff I got. I've already talked about that. Stuff I read, Hindenburg graphic novel. I have Cross, but I forget what that was about. Oh, well, I'm not Cross because, like I said, tomorrow morning, I'm on the road, Jack. I'll probably come back after Dana's in Reno for some. Oh, never mind. Cory, what you geeking on?
Some of the announcements that have been made about omnibuses have made me very happy, including one. Joe, there will be a Invaders Omnibus.
Oh.
And it won't just have the 41 issue series with the 2 giant size and the annual. Nope, it'll have the there was a story where the Avengers fought them back in like Avengers 80 something. That's going to be in there. The mini series that was done in the 90s is going to be in there when Roy Thomas came back to Marvel. Yeah. It's basically going to be all the Invader stories up until they did the reboot in the 2000s. It's going to be one big book, and I'm already looking and going, I don't know what cover to get. Because there's a Kirby cover, but I want the Frank Robbins cover because he's the one who drew the series. Kirby never drew an issue of the Invaders. That was just during the time when Marvel had Kirby do as many covers as he could. So I'll probably end up flipping a coin or something. But and a lot of people, even the people who don't like the Frank Robbins stuff at Marvel, which I do, even as a kid, it was like, this is weird, but I kind of like it. They say that it really worked on the Invaders because it was set in the 40s. And I've always liked superhero stories set during World War II. I don't like war comics. And like Sergeant Rock, I can't force myself to read Sergeant Rock. I've tried reading other war comics. Even Sergeant Fury, I kind of... But I like the superhero war comics, especially the ones by Roy Thomas, because he would try to tie them into actual historical events and things. So I'm happy to get those again. I have the Invaders Classics trade paperbacks. I'll probably sell those off, and because I have the comics. I'm buying the omnibus. I don't need the trade paperbacks. I keep buying this stuff over and over.
Well, we got to be careful because I just got word when we go to Granite City Comics on Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a sale.
I saw that.
25% off back issues, 10% off graphic novels. Oh, this should be fun.
There will be other sales if we can find all the sales around. We should post them. I've even told my son. I sent a message to my son. Hey, I know you're not a real comic book guy, but you and your wife love going to used bookstores. Dreamhaven will have stuff on sale, even if it's not comics. This shop, he's really into the Warhammer miniatures, and I told him the Source will have a sale. You're going to want to get to the Twin Cities and hit places on Free Comic Book Day. There is so much cool stuff on YouTube when it comes to wrestling. Mark Henry runs a promotion out of Texas. I watched a few episodes of that. Major League Wrestling has their stuff up on YouTube. And if you're not watching Major League Wrestling and you're an old school comic fan, you should watch it. It's being put together by Court Bauer, who worked at WWE during the Attitude Era after Vince Russo left. So the guy knows how to put stories together. He's got the Von Erich grandchildren, and he's using them. It's where MJF came from. Really good show. It's an hour long. It's free. It's on YouTube. It's free. Come on, man. It's free on YouTube.
Free.
Been watching that. By the time this drops, both my eyes will be corrected. And this big old stack of books and comics I will be starting to go through, because it's been really frustrating that I can only read on screens. And that's been that way for about, I would say, 3 months now. So kind of looking forward to that. I am a little bummed that I don't get a month and a half off like I had with my cataract surgery, but what are you going to do? But I talked a while back about how Comixology has sales. I picked up a bunch of Thor Epic collections, and I'm reading the one that ends Kirby's run on Thor. There's a couple Neil Adams issues, and then John Buscema took over. And, I've read the other books where Kirby left. The Fantastic Four transition out of Kirby to John Romita and then to John Buscema was rough. Those stories, some of those stories are just god-awful. But the transition from Kirby to Neil Adams to John Buscema was very well handled. Stan didn't fall back on the old stuff he had done before Kirby, way back, where it's, Odin's pissed all the time. Nope. He didn't feel the need to, okay, Kirby's I got to go back to the stuff he did before he took over. Nope. He let the stories go from there. And you could tell that John Buscema absolutely adores drawing it. The stories are really fun, and I have not read them before. I had not read the stuff after Kirby left, because I kind of stopped when I was reading Thor on Marvel Unlimited. It's like, okay, Kirby's gone. I'll read the Neil Adams stuff, and then I'm good. But no, John Buscema took over, and this was pre-Conan, so this was kind of where he got his, I get to draw barbarians and horses, and I don't have to draw cities. Because the story starts in New York, and boy, they get out of New York fast. And I can always tell when John Buscema kind of helps with the plot, because, boy, they leave the city really fast. He hates drawing cars and buildings and stuff. So those are the things I'm geeking on, but mostly I'm just geeking on the fact that by the time you guys read this, I will be knee-deep in reading novels on paper and these omnibuses that are filling up the house. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half.
And we don't think we don't appreciate it.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
I've decided to stop fighting my inner demons. We're on the same side now. Cory, hit my music.